Good afternoon and thanks everybody for joining us and welcome to our latest webinar. My name's David Bailey and I'm the Digital Engagement Manager at the Police Digital Service. And today it's a really special webinar as we're joined by our friends from the local police service in Belgium, Tim and Gunter, who are going to be sharing some of how they've been using the exact same technologies that we've implemented in the UK to help them tackle local crime issues. These PDS webinars, Wednesday webinars, formerly known as the NEP webinars, the National Enabling Programme, where we started to create them, are created to ensure as a wider possible audience are able to access the latest updates about police technology, how it's improving the lives of our colleagues, how it's helping us to improve better services and better outcomes for the communities that we serve. I know our webinars have helped a rail authority in New Zealand to apply the drone approach that we've innovated in forces, and we know America, Australia are all following us, but particularly Europe. And today I'm really proud to be joined by two of our biggest international fans, and that's their words. They've joined us for some time now, and it's actually their second webinar with us as well. So I'm going to ask Tim, could you introduce yourself first of all?
Well, thank you, Dave. My name is Tim de Vos. I'm a superintendent at the local police force of Schoten. And Schoten is a small community near the city of Antwerp in the north of Belgium. And there I'm the deputy chief of police. I'm also an industrial engineer as a background. And before I was a detective at also the local police, and I specialized myself a little bit in cybercrime. So briefly, that's me. Maybe Gunter, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Gunter van de Wiele. I'm a process manager at the local police force of Schoten. I was a coach on the Belgian police hackathon a year ago, and you know, I'm just a big Microsoft 365 and therefore a PDS fan.
Tim, today you're going to share what's been going on with your Money Mule app, and I want our UK-based colleagues to not only learn about the success of the app and how you've developed that, but an important learning is how you are empowered with local innovation, enabling you and your colleagues to use these tools that are available to you to actually implement change that has an impact on policing. So, Tim, could you explain to us what was the issue you wanted to tackle and how did you start with that?
Well, thank you, Dave. Well, I will talk about two things actually. First, the Money Mule app. It's an app we built in 3 days, and within 6 months it was almost used in every police force in Belgium. And second, I will tell a little bit my experience with videos, but I will come to that. Gunter, can you? Yes. So how did it start with the app? On a sunny Friday afternoon around 3 o'clock in February 2021, we received a new judicial guideline by email from the prosecutor's office, and a new guideline on cybercrime with an implementation deadline of 2 weeks. So it has to go very quickly. And what was in the deadline of what it was in the guideline, I will show you in the next slide. But that time on that Friday, I went home and I was like, this is an easy guideline, but it's not dummy proof, and maybe I want to do this differently. Maybe I want to do this. I don't know how, but we need to look for something else so it's dummy proof. So I went home with a lot of work, a lot of thinking, and on Sunday morning I woke up and I dreamed about a PowerApp, to build a PowerApp of the guideline. And so I was so excited. I called Gunter on Sunday morning. I said, Gunter, I had a dream. And on Monday, I explained the whole idea about building a PowerApp of the guideline, translate the guideline in an app. So it had, it was dummy proof and it was automated. And Gunter starts building his app. He's really a specialist in building apps. And on Thursday morning, we've got our first working version of the app. And that's actually the power of the the Office 365 we can build so fast. Gunter will probably tell more about it. About the judicial guideline, briefly, it was a new way of working on cybercrime. It were some guidelines on cooperation with banks. First, blocking bank accounts of mules and requesting CCTV images of cashiers. For those who are not familiar with cybercrime and phishing, mules, if we transfer money from the victim's account to another account from the suspect, we call that suspect a money mule. And the persons who go cash the money from the ATM machines from the mule account, we call them cashiers. So the guideline said we first the responding officer had to make the report and interrogate the victim. Then after a few days, he can send his report to the prosecutor's office. But immediately after the report, when the victim leaves the station, he has to look up which bank account corresponds with which bank. So there was an old numbering plan with banks and account numbers, and they had to look up which bank belongs to which account number. Then secondly, he had to look up the single point of contact email of that particular bank of the money mule, and then paste that in an email, and paste also a template email and fill in some blanks from the report and send that to the mail of the money mule, of the bank of the money mule. So you say that's not difficult, and indeed that's not difficult, but we are working with people. And when we work with people, when we see the wrong bank, wrong number, wrong email, so it's not dummy proof. And that's what the app actually automates. Yes, Gunter, next slide. Here you see the first image of the app, the first page, and what you see is on top an explanation. What does this app do? Secondly, an instruction video, a video of 5 minutes, me explaining how the app works, what they have to do, and lastly, what the guideline says. On the bottom, a disclaimer, and for the first time you use this app, you automatically gonna watch this video, and so they know how to use this app. When they press continue, verder, it's in Dutch, I'm sorry. This is the second page of the app, and on top we have the contact information for the banks. Actually, it's the name and the contact info, the mail and the telephone number of the police officer. Secondly, the information of the victim, name, first name, and the bank account number. And then the information of the suspects, because we can enter more mule account numbers. So we enter the account number and also the amount that was transferred from the victim's banking account to the mule account. And then lastly, the police report number. And if we continue, then the app will check if all blanks were filled in, all fields were filled in. And then the app generates very easily the right emails, and it sends 3 emails. Firstly, to the bank, the requested template email to the right bank, to the reporting officer, to a sort of status report. Thank you for your email. Your email was sent to this bank and that bank. And also to the detectives department, some sort of status report. And remember, CCTV was requested. Be aware, in a few days you will get a response from a bank, and a new file was created by the officer. Okay, Gunter. Here you see some statistics of our app. We started in 2001 in February, and in our own police force, and in a few months we spreaded the app in all local police forces next to us. And almost after 6 months, every Antwerp in the province of Antwerp, we started using the app. And also the prosecutor's office was a big fan of the app, because we also showed, of course, the movie, and we showed them these statistics also. So after 1 year using the app, we had a you can see the numbers, 3 million euros. That's about £2.5 million. And you can also see which banks are more targeted from phishing than other banks, like Belfius Bank. There's a high rate of the customers are victims, and the Bpost Bank, it's also a small bank, but less victims. Okay. Now, in my opinion, what made this app, MuleStop app, a big success? Firstly, more efficient use for the officer. So they came to me and they said, yeah, this app is great because I have to work less. If I use this app, it's so easy. If I should do the steps myself, like it is described in the guideline, this is easy to use. So they were big fans. Secondly, and very important, this was the first time they could contribute as a first responder in the office to the combat of cybercrime. Before they made the report, and they say to the victim, yeah, we made the report. And now they say, we made a report and we're filling in an app, and the app will contact the banks to block money, to block accounts, and hopefully returning your money. So that was a big plus. Yeah, easy. What you see is what you get. There are no databases behind this app, except we only remember or only store numbers, the amounts, and the banks. That's it. So no personal data is stored from victims. So data protection law in Belgium was not applicable. And then what made it a bigger success in whole Belgium was the streams video. The streams video of 5 minutes, me explaining the app. And yeah, it looked a very professional video, and we posted it on Streams, Microsoft Stream. And so it was visible for all Belgian police, even in the west coast of Belgium. In the south, they saw the movie and they were, wow, this app is great. We're going to translate it in French. So yeah, this looks like a professional video, but we are not professionals. I made this video with a green screen and just in my kitchen next to my cat. With my jeans on, but that's really a good way to empower young officers. I'm talking about Generation X, Y, Z. They really hate to read. That's my experience. If you give them 10 pages with guidelines, they probably won't read it. So this TikTok, Instagram, Facebook idea of making videos really empowers them to follow the guidelines. And it's very easy to build these movies into a SharePoint site or in an app. That's briefly the intro of what our app does and how we came to this app. Maybe Gunter can explain the next steps we took with this app.
Yes, that's not the end of the story. The story continues. So what happened then is that the CPS Antwerp district, they made an assessment of the situation, and first of all, they saw that they were flooded by cybercrime. Regular crime is often replaced by cybercrime, and the speed at which we developed the PowerApp and the scalability of it was far above what they expected. And they got some great feedback from the work floor. So within the CPS, the question was raised: if they can do this, how far can these citizen developers take us to a better solution? And you also have to know that the CCP of Antwerp is very much inspired by General Stan McChrystal. He was the commanding officer of the special forces in Afghanistan. And after his tour in Afghanistan, he made an evaluation, and he saw that on the one side, you know, the U.S. military was much better on many levels than the Taliban. But on the other hand, he also saw that the Taliban was very successful, and he asked himself the question how that was possible. What did the Taliban have that the U.S. military didn't have? And his answer to that question was organization. So the U.S. military is a hierarchy, and the Taliban is more organized like a network, where information is passed along very quickly, and decisions are taken very quickly based on that information in the field. And you know, he said that explained the success of the Taliban, and hence the title of his book, Team of Teams. And the main message from General Stan McChrystal is that it takes a team, it takes a network to beat a network. And the CCP of Antwerp, he drew a parallel between that story and his reality. He also is better equipped than most of the criminals, and he has more power. But he sees that he's always outmaneuvered by these networks of cyber criminals, and he saw in the citizen developers within the Belgian police a way to build a network to counter that network. And so what he did, he took it up the ladder, and in June 21, we were invited to a meeting hosted by the Belgian Justice Cabinet. And they gave us the mandate to build a proof of concept of a highly adaptive framework that can work as a backbone of a network where information is shared in a fast and safe way among partners, public and private, to disrupt money laundering in the field. And the idea behind it was that Microsoft 365 could also be seen as a quick and a cheap way to get a tested functional analysis for a bigger solution. So what happens next is we started building in June 21, and in February 22, the solution was finished, and the solution is called VIC2, and it's a framework that in which business processes can be modeled and automatically translated into Microsoft 365 solutions without coding, with big functionality on communication and produce documents. So actually, what it does by the start of the project was it was blocking bank account numbers in collaboration with the banks as the Money Mule app, but it also generated court orders automatically once the constable on the desk has inputted everything. A court order is generated automatically, and it communicates to forces what is in common with prior complaints in other forces. And to max out scalability, we stayed within the E3 license of Microsoft. From February on till now, we're testing the solution, and there's 3 police forces who are testing it in collaboration with the CPS. And maybe now is a good time to talk a little about the setup, what we have built. So the solution is consists mainly of 2 parts. There's a PowerApp that resides in a team site, and there's a dataverse for teams that resides in another team site. And the 2 can communicate without using the standard connector. So we don't use the SharePoint connector or the Dataverse connector. We do it in another way, and that has the advantage that we can export the solution and import it in another environment. For instance, the justice environment, the justice environment within Microsoft, of course. And the PowerApp in Teams in the justice environment can talk to the Dataverse in the police environment and the other way around. And we're looking to expand it and to also import the app in private partners like banks, where they can use the app and it will feed the Dataverse in the Belgian police environment and the justice environment. And the only requisite to do this is the E3 license of Microsoft 365. The testing went well, and there was another meeting by the Justice Cabinet, and the VIC2 was accepted as a valid analysis for a new model in the best national police system in Belgium. So they wanted to translate VIC2 into the existing national system. And two advantages were seen. First of all, it's a very complex solution, but now there was a functional analysis that worked because it was already working within the PowerApp. And second of all, the time pressure was taken off the national project because they didn't have to deliver within months or within a year, because VIC2 is already functioning, so that they have more time to build the national solution into the national system. And so from June on, we are starting to build a network. First of all, the other Antwerp police forces will join in, and we have also a first meeting planned with the Dutch police. They're doing very interesting things in private-public sector collaboration, so we want to have a look at that and maybe tap into that. And on the 28th of September, VIC2 will be showcased to representatives of the Dutch and the German police. I think that's a nice note to end my slide deck. But before, maybe we could ask to answer some questions. There's maybe 3 points I want to highlight. The first is, we built an app that was used by many different forces, and one of the concerns was that, from our app we were building data on other forces. So if we host the PowerApp and everything that is registered in the PowerApp, then we would have statistics on other forces, and we don't want that. So the nice thing, there's no database behind the MuleStop police app. And if you ask the question, well, how can you show statistics? Well, it's because every time somebody uses the app, there's a mail sent to a Teams channel, and in that mail is just the amount, the bank it is transferred to, and the date. And that way we can have an overall view, but still respect the quote-unquote privacy of all the other forces. And traditionally, a software solution, you have the user input, then it's stored in a data structure, and from that data structure it starts communicating, and we turn that around. So we started with the user interface, and then we have communication, and the communication feeds the data structure, and that way not everything is registered, and you can decide which statistics you will monitor and which you will not monitor. The second point I want to highlight is that it is possible for Power Apps to talk to Dataverse or SharePoint lists in other environments. We've done it. It's done within the E3 license, and it's a very big strategic advantage. There was another webinar on collaboration where there was explained what is guest access in federation, but within the E3 license you can go further. You can share Power Apps among environments and have them transport data to different environments. And the last thing I want to highlight is you on a strategic level, you have to look at software from an adaptability perspective. And if you look at software development from an adaptability perspective, on the one hand of the spectrum, you have the traditional software solutions that are just logical constructions. You know, if you press A, then B happens. If you press C, then D and E happens. And then on the other end of the perspective, you have artificial intelligence, where the solution itself learns and makes decisions. And you don't know why things are happening. But there's a midfield in between those two ends of the spectrum, and that is adaptable software. And that's where Microsoft 365 and low code actually is. You can build adaptable software that you can adapt to specific needs. And I think really that is the future. If we as a police organization want a fighting chance in a society that is VUCA, you know, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, we should be looking at adaptable software right in the middle. And in the beginning of my presentation, I said I was a PDS fan, and the reason for that is in Belgium, I think we were the first country to have a Microsoft 365 license for the whole national police. But the conclusion we now have after 4 years, what strategic advantage it can have. The PDS already embraced that idea like a few years back, and that's why I really like what you are doing over there in the UK. So, you know, with that, I will stop talking, and maybe now we can answer some questions.
Gunter, thank you so much for that. That's really insightful. And Tim, you know, the story you tell there, an idea over a weekend that produced something by the following Thursday that then has become a national and international approach, is a real inspiration of what can be done by empowering colleagues to use the tools they've got to solve a local problem that's but scalable up, because we're using that common framework technology. I know we're on slightly different blueprints, our standards are slightly different to yours, but the core technology that underpins this is exactly the same, and that's a really important point. We haven't got that many questions or that much more time left to come into, but there are colleagues asking how they get in touch, and if you just get in touch with the PDS, we'll pass on the questions so that we don't swamp Gunter and Tim under it, because they're going to appear again on our learning workshop in a couple of weeks' time with Mike, that's Mike's facilitating at the moment, so we will bring that in. One of the most important things I took from that was the reaction from the officers themselves. Tim, why was it important to make this? You know, it's a matter of looking a bit of data up, really, isn't it? But why? What difference does it make to the front line of being having the confidence that the platform will do the work for them?
The app was so easy. So they have seen the movie and they were anxious to try it out, because it was the first time they had an app very near to them. It was built in SharePoint, and they use SharePoint for looking up information and stuff. And then we have the police software where we put in all the reporting data. But this is something outside police software that communicates immediately with the right bank. So it was just easy for them to use, and more easy for them than going follow the steps of the guideline. The app will think for them.
Yeah. And if the numbers change or the email address contact, you just alter the app, and that just makes it carry on working. You haven't got to communicate it to every officer or staff member.
Indeed.
So,
they save a lot of time by using the app, because cybercrime, it booms, and they are not the most popular cases to report. Every time there is we work as police with appointments, and when somebody books a cybercrime, they used to say, "Oh no, not again, not a cybercrime. It will take me an hour, and now it will take them maybe 30 minutes."
Yeah.
Yes, I think that most of the constables have a love or hate relation to technology, and cybercrime is very much associated with ICT and technology, and some love it and others hate it, and I think the big thing we did is we made the technology so easy to use that they feel confident using the technology to fight crime that is based on technology.
And that's a really important message to end with there, Gunter. Just on screen now are appearing in the next couple of sessions. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the national road shows to forces. Now I've got Chris and the team joining us next week to try and compress 3 days of updates from 17, 18 national programs into 30 minutes. So there's a challenge for us. And we have gone over today, which is our golden rule. I've mentioned Mike will be hosting a learning and development workshop where the Belgian police will be appearing again with another app framework that they've developed, which we're happy to share with us. And then on the 13th of July, we have a PowerApp that's been developed up in one of our northeastern forces to help with burglary recording and investigation. And they've used one of their gold partners to do this. And that's going to be available for all UK forces through the solutions catalogue. And the point I think that lesson we take away from today is about collaboration. Each district in Belgium could have been trying to solve the same problem, duplicating the efforts, but instead what's happened here, they've been able to share that across using the technology that's there, common blueprints, and more parts of the service are doing that. That's exactly what we're trying to do in the police digital service with you guys. There is the force collaboration team. There is a link that we post into the chat and we'll put onto the video. If you want to become a member of the force collaboration team, share your ideas on what you're working on, not just your solutions, because chances are there's somebody else facing the same challenge and we can try and line you up and get more support. You will have seen the digital garage webinar we did last week, which is probably for some more complex solutions. Again, we can put things forward to the digital garage to Brian, get us all working together and sharing the same collaboration. So thanks so much to Tim and Gunther for joining us today. It's amazing to have you as part of the extended PDS family, joining us along the journey as we continue. We do hope you'll join us next week for next week's webinar. And remember, you can share our webinars with colleagues through the Watch platform. Please do watch them again. We get so much feedback that people do get value out of watching our webinars.